Any hardship, she is by my side. We both equals, so there is no pride. I stay humble, she do too. We both on the same page. In fact, I live through you and you live through me. Our spirits connected, so I'll cherish this marriage and never neglect it. Spend that quality time as I help you out. That's my job as the man of the house. I walk down the aisle, I'm a married man. And all I do is smile, I'm a married man.
Hello, everybody.
Do you tag yourself? What do you want?
Yeah. Excuse our little opening thing.
We're live now?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Welcome to Cherish the Marriage, episode number 2.
Yes.
Compatibility and finding the right mate.
Yes. Oops.
What'd you do? You turn the sound off?
No.
Oh, go ahead. What is Cherish the Marriage, Joanna?
What is Cherish the Marriage?
Give a little brief introduction on what this is we're doing.
So Cherish the Marriage is just our little vlog video series, I guess. That's just about cherishing the marriage, not just our relationship, which we do cherish the marriage relationship,
yes,
but also the marriage of ideas, the marriage of two different thought processes, two different backgrounds, and just marriage being the bringing together and, coming to an agreement on those things. Exactly. So we just want to, cherish the bringing together of those things.
Yes, and it's something we do every week, every Sunday after church. Get the kids laid down and hopefully they're quiet. Anyway, this week we're talking about compatibility and finding the right mate.
Yes.
So how did we meet, Joanna?
How did we meet? We met actually online. We both happened to be on the OkCupid website. Well, I think Derek was on the app, and I used to had the website. Mm-hmm. And it was actually kind of funny because I was just there for laughs.
Laugh at people.
Yeah, because some friends of mine convinced me to get on just to be funny. And then Derek was on just to kind of talk to people because he worked overnights and he was, just kind of lonely, didn't have any friends. So
lonely, and I had friends. It's just I didn't meet.
But no, you didn't know that many like local people like to hang out with or things like that.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
So, but anyways, so on the app, it asked like a bunch of questions about
keep it brief.
Relationships, about your thoughts on things. So we ended up having, what was it?
Like 80 or 90%.
No, it was 98%.
Oh, was it that high?
It was 98%
compatibility.
Mm-hmm.
So we met online. That's not something typical people do, and at least from what I've heard, a lot of people were scared of meeting online and stuff like that. But some of the things that made us compatible was we were kind of both on the same page with religion. Mm-hmm. We had a lot of the same interests, sort of. We were both kind of homebodies.
Well, see, a lot of the things, we probably should have had an outline or something. But I was going to say, a lot of the things that make us so compatible with each other are things that we didn't even realize, that we should ask, or like something we should really even be looking for. Mm-hmm. But then we ended up finding them in each other. But there were other big things that we were looking for that, were reasons we realized, okay, I am really compatible with this person. So what would you say are big things to look for as far as finding someone you're actually really compatible with?
Well, like I was saying, prior to meeting you, I would always look for someone that I could maybe have fun with. We have some of the same interests, if they were like an interesting person, but I never thought about like my core values. Mm-hmm. And I remember I was reading this blog. It's called Baggage Reclaim, and it talked about that's how you find the person you're supposed to be with if you have the same core values that kind of line up. So, if you're just, dating and enjoying that person's company, I didn't ask myself what do I kind of want out of life? What am I looking for? And I wanted someone that had good mother qualities, someone who was, of course, a strong Christian. Someone who was kind of just an easygoing person, not hot temper. Yeah. One that didn't get stressed out in certain situations, so we could kind of complement each other and balance each other out. So I think it's important to know what your core values are. Like if you want to, travel the world or something, or whatever you want to do, make sure you kind of have that discussion and it lines up with what your significant other may want to do, as opposed to just, we both like the same movies, or we both like to hang out and have fun with each other. Are you going to plan to spank kids? Like everything I wanted was tailored towards long-term, like marriage-type relationship stuff, and I think you equally had that in mind as well, wanting to, settle down with someone.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most important things for me, was to find somebody who was compatible in a long-term sense, in the sense of, does this person want children? Does this person go to church? Do we want to attend the same type of church? Like, does this person want to travel, or would they rather, stay home more? For me personally, I'm not that into traveling. Like, it'd be okay sometimes, but I don't think I would enjoy life with somebody who wanted to travel all the time. Some people love that, but other people don't. So, looking more at the big life goals, what do you want to do with your life, and is what I want for my life compatible with that? I think a lot of times we can maybe get stuck with somebody that we're not really compatible with, a lot of times because we're not thinking, it's like, oh, well, someday we'll talk about kids, someday we'll talk about marriage, someday we'll talk about, finance questions, but for now, we both, have fun going to the movies, and we have fun doing stuff. But you can spend a lot of time with somebody, and then when it comes down to the actual nitty-gritty of a relationship, maybe you really aren't that compatible with each other, and then you find out really far in the relationship because you haven't asked those more important questions.
And I remember when we were dating, the first couple emails, you asked me if I was spirit-filled, and how I felt about patriarchy, which is another video we'll talk about. So you asked me all these really kind of deep questions that, aside from my personality, you wanted to know kind of what made me tick, what type of individual am I, and that can be difficult because you might not know everything to ask the person, or the person might not really know what they want. I kind of had it set in my head when I wanted to get married and stuff like that. But I know that might take time for some people, and then you have to be able to give them that time and kind of grow in the relationship and find out if it's the person that you want to eventually spend your life with. I will say that the way you handled conflict was really impressive to me, because when we first met, I thought I had to be with someone 5 or 6 years before I knew that they'd be someone I could marry. And what were we together, 6 months? Less than a year before we got engaged.
Yeah, we dated. I think we got engaged after we dated for 7 months, and then we were married 8 months later. So I think it was a total of 15 months. So not even quite a year and a half from the time we met to the time we were married.
Yeah.
So just almost, not quite a year and a half, almost.
So what was the one of the main things for you that let you know I was someone you could marry? I would say for me, it was, of course, we liked being around each other, and we could our first date, I think we spent our whole
literally 12 hours.
Yeah, 12 hours together.
Just
we
together.
weren't tired of being around each other, and we just enjoyed each other's company. But it was also the way we got into arguments, the way we talked things out, and that was really, good that I felt we could talk things out no matter what we kind of went through.
Yeah, I mean, kind of from the get-go, both of us were really, respectful of each other and, worked things through in a really, really respectful kind of way.
Oh, but the question I asked you, how do you know I was someone you could marry?
So there were several things. So one thing is, when we first met, I did ask a lot of my big deal-breaker questions because I just didn't want to waste my time. I didn't want to waste his time.
Yeah, you need
if we weren't
questions.
Compatible in serious ways, if he didn't want children, that would have been a major deal breaker for me because I knew already I do want children. So those are the type of questions I wanted to just get out of the way. And then especially regarding some more spiritual things related to my faith and how I live it out. I knew that I needed to be with somebody who was also in line with that.
Mm-hmm.
So by your answering those questions, I mean, I knew pretty early on that I was very interested. Like, you know, as soon as we started emailing, we were like writing books to each other.
Yeah, that was a lot to talk about.
So we definitely really hit it off right away. So that's one way I knew. And then your answers to my, you know, the things that I asked, and then just the way our conversations went, you know, I could see that our long-term goals were in line with each other. So that was kind of the main thing for me. You know, what kind of a life do you want? And I realized it's pretty much in line with mine, which is just, you know, having a family, kind of working and spending time together, and you know. And then you also took a big interest in me as an artist, right away. That was a really big thing for me too.
Right. Yeah, that was really interesting. So yeah, similarly for me, you also like had all these traits and things that I was kind of looking for. But like you mentioned, the things that, you know, well, let me take a few steps back. Before I met Joanna, though, you know, I was kind of terrible at picking the right person, you know. So I got to a point to where I realized I was bad at choosing who to be with. You know, I had all these situations where it was just the wrong type of person. So I got closer to God. You know, I just stopped worrying about dating. I said, God, you know, I'm obviously bad at picking. Why don't you pick for me? Bring someone to me that, you know, has these certain things. And then I stopped worrying about it. I stopped thinking about it. I just kind of build my relationship strong with him. And then it was like God kind of brought you to me. Brought you to me, because I just wasn't focused on it. I think a lot of times people focus on it so much, wanting this person to be the right person, and trying to, you know, make the relationship work, and you know, you're trying to force it, and the results aren't what you're exactly hoping to get.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes you can get kind of stuck, like not wanting something to fail. But if it's not really the right thing for you, then, you know, maybe it should fail. And, you know, like, I think like nobody really wants to think of themselves as a failure, or like, oh, this relationship failed. But, you know, in my opinion, the ending of a relationship between two people who weren't really like good together or weren't really compatible with each other, that's not a failure. That's a success. That means that they realized we shouldn't be together. Like, this isn't working. We're not a good fit for each other. You know, and that should, you know, we can be opened up to finding someone who we are an actual fit for. You know, I mean,
but what if you like, sometimes when you're like with the person for so much time, and then instead of ending the relationship, it's like almost like you're starting over. Like, let's say it was someone a few years, and you're trying to make it work, and you know, you care for them, you might love them, but, you know, it might be a toxic relationship. But as opposed to, you know, start from scratch, so to speak, you try to stick in there and make it work, or hope things will get better. Do you think that's a bad thing to try to do?
No, I mean, I'm not saying across the board there's anything that's like wrong. You know, you can still make that choice, and that does work for some people. I'm just saying that it shouldn't be framed in terms of it being a failure if two people do end up splitting up. That's that's not necessarily a failure. It could be that's what should happen. Like, maybe they just shouldn't have been together. But sometimes you don't know that a person isn't the right one for you until you spend time with them in a relationship. Because you know, being in a relationship with somebody, you see such a deeper, more intimate part of them than when you're just friends, or just, you know, see them in social situations and stuff. So, you know, I mean, I dated a guy a long time ago before I met Derek, and he wasn't the right person for me, but I didn't really know that until, you know, I was with him for a while. And then, you know, there were just like little red flags that just kind of built up over a while. And then eventually, you know, I kind of got a revelation that it was really just a big, you know, like, these are a big problem, even though it's all like seems like little problems. It actually was a big problem, and we really just weren't compatible with each other.
Right.
So, but that was helpful for me, because then, you know, I was like, okay, so I don't need this type of person. So that helped me kind of realize who I needed to look for. And then I did meet a guy who was kind of like almost what I needed, but not quite. And then that really helped me. By the time I met Derek, I was pretty clear on, this is the type of person who is going to be compatible with me, and kind of knew what I was looking for.
So let's switch it up a little bit.
Yeah.
What are some things that are red flags? Like you said, you need to have like a kind of red flag list. But how do you know when you're not compatible with somebody?
Well, some things that were, just for me personally, some things that were, for me, were things like never feeling like things were resolved. Like if we had an argument and it just never felt resolved. Like it never felt like we could actually talk it out. Like we would just like eventually drop it and leave it alone, but it was never really like resolved together. Like we never really came to an actual agreement. That's a big red flag as far as compatibility, and that could be just a communication issue, which we kind of talked about in our last video, but it could be a deeper compatibility thing. Like maybe you just aren't on the same wavelength with this person to be able to actually discuss it the way you need to.
Right.
So yeah, that's one. I mean, big things like, having different life goals. Like one person doesn't want kids, the other person does want kids. One person wants to travel all the time, the other person really isn't that interested in traveling. Those can be really big compatibility things.
Yeah.
Let me see. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think first you kind of have to realize what you won't take. Like you said, having deal breakers. I think a lot of times we don't necessarily think about compatibility in those terms. I know for me, like, I know I wouldn't want somebody who wasn't in the faith, Well, I know sometimes you might, get involved with somebody and not, know everything in terms of what they believe, but you start liking the person.
Right.
You know what I mean? That happened to me a lot. Like, I knew this person wasn't like a strong Christian, but, enjoyed their company, we're talking and stuff like that. And then you find out, oh, they believe this, this, and this. Or they, might believe certain things in the Bible. So, but if you take it out of the religious context, like, you have to recognize when something's like toxic. Like if you're arguing all the time, that should be a big red flag. If any type of physical abuse, obviously that's going to be a big red flag. Disrespectful to parents. They might not have done nothing to you, but if someone's disrespectful to their mother and father, that should be a red flag. So I was really would pay attention how people treat other people. Usually they treat you pretty good because they like you or whatever, but they might not be the nicest person. So then I would look at their character, their integrity, and judge if that's like someone that is overall a nice person.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I would say one thing that's always stood out to me about you is that you kind of take like such a personal interest in everybody, like even random people, like just the cashier, like you'll read their name tag and use their name like purposefully.
Oh yeah.
Because that's, you want to feel like you're, personally addressing them. And I feel like a lot, most people really don't do that sort of thing. I mean, I really don't most of the time, to be honest. So, but that really stuck out to me as like, seeing that you were like almost, kind of going the extra mile to be kind to people, even when you really didn't have to.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't required at all.
Right.
But, you just wanted to do that. So I think that, that sort of little thing can kind of clue you what type of a person somebody is. Like if you're doing that sort of thing, or on the flip side, like you said, if you're, if they're rude to people for no reason, they might not be rude to you, but maybe they're rude to your waiter all the time, or, cashiers, people doing their job, that sort of thing.
Are you tired?
Me?
Yeah.
Probably a little bit.
I probably look tired. I don't know what it is about Sundays, but I just get so tired and drained. I get up early every morning for work, go to work, slave in the heat. But on Sundays, for some reason, I'm just so extra tired. So forgive me, guys, if I'm not my normal jovial
self.
Jovial self. I'm a little tired, but we're talking about compatibility, and we've spoken about some things that make us compatible. Like if you're just watching, me and Joanna met online. We're 98% match on OkCupid. So I always tell people, I always encourage online dating, but some people really shy away from it and are afraid of it. So how do you meet people? Like in a Starbucks, you know, at a grocery store, it's really difficult to just meet someone or see someone that is, you know, physically attractive and just spark a conversation out of thin air. So it's it can be difficult to do that and meet people. You know, honesty, of course, is always the best policy. You know, I would say, you know, like, well, that's not really the scope of this, talking about how you meet people. But when we talk about the other part of this video is finding the right mate. So I will say you have to kind of know that you want to be in a serious relationship. If you just want to date, then, you know, that's one thing. But knowing first, okay, I want to be in a serious, committed relationship, and finding a like-minded individual, that will help you sort of weed a lot of people out. Because if the other person isn't thinking along those lines, you're not going to waste time with the person. And I like how in the beginning, you know, our first few emails, you asked me, like, how long would I want to wait before I get married? How many kids do I want? Am I spirit-filled? All these things, sort of like a checklist type of things. I think that's really, really important to do, so you don't end up wasting a whole lot of time with people who aren't on the same page as you, you know. And for a long time, I didn't know what my core values were because I never really thought about it. And then when I asked myself that, I could kind of say, okay, this person doesn't fit into my core value schematic. You know, this isn't someone I can date. Or if someone like believed in like evolution, I know that I don't believe in that. You know, I believe in biblical creation. So obviously that's gonna cause issues down the road. So you want to, you know, make the transition as easy as possible if you're going to be with someone long term, I think.
Yeah.
So, you know, definitely got to have God at the forefront.
Right.
How do you think your faith plays into believing God for your mate? Like, you know, I think sometimes we want to help God out and find someone sooner. Do you think a person should just wait on the Lord to bring you somebody and just do that, or there's a little bit of...
Well, I think it's kind of like, for me, I think it's kind of both. Like in a sense, you do have to kind of, you know, trust that the Lord will bring you somebody who's the right person. You know, and you know, be prepared to wait for that person and not get stuck, you know, trying to find, you know, just trying to make something happen that isn't really meant to happen. You know, sometimes we want to like jump into something that's not really, you know, because we just like, you know, you really want to get married a lot of times before, you know, when you're single and it's, you know, you're lonely or whatever, you want to have kids and, you know, then you kind of jump into a relationship. But on the flip side, I do think that we have a responsibility. You know, like I do feel like God brought Derek into my path. You know, he brought us into each other's path, but Derek still had to actually send a message to me, and then I had to actually read it and choose to respond. So we still had to take actions in those cases, and then we also took actions to make sure that we were compatible with each other. You know, it wasn't just like, you know, like we didn't know the second we spoke, like, oh, this is God's person for me. You know, we had to like learn about each other. And we had
that leads into one more question. I don't mean to cut you off, but do you believe? I used to hear this all the time because I'd ask certain people that have been married like a number of years, like, how do you know it's the right person? And everyone would tell me, when you know, you just know. I thought that was kind of cliche. Do you think that's true, when you know, or is there an actual sign that said, you know, lets you know this is the right person, or is it more of an inner feeling?
I think it's more of an inner feeling. I mean, I felt that way. Like, I just knew that you were the right one. But it was also backed up by a lot of knowing about you. And, you know, knowing who you are.
What if I would have changed? Like, you know, that happens to some people. Everything seems great, even when they get married, and then 3-4 years in a relationship, the person just is like abusive and like.
Well, that would be different. I mean, if you were lying about the type of person that you were, then yeah, some people do get fooled, yeah. But I don't think that is affects the when you know kind of statement. So.
Gotcha. Did you pray about like when you were thinking about us getting married? Did you pray about it? Like, because every time I'm unsure about something, I'll pray and ask God to give me a sign. And there's always something like a sign, like this obviously isn't the right person for me.
Oh, I see. I don't think I prayed in that sense, like for God to show me if you were the right or wrong person for me. But I also knew pretty quick into knowing each other that I wanted to get married to you.
Gotcha.
So I mean, it didn't really give time for me to like question it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we just hit it off really, really fast.
You love that hit it off word. Let's keep hitting it off. All right, compatibility. Is anybody asking any questions?
No, we are. If you want to ask questions, or we are
curious.
Probably have about 5 more minutes or so.
It's 25 minutes already.
Yeah,
we
isn't that crazy?
These usually last 30 minutes.
Yeah,
we've been talking 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we might need to go a little longer today. Let's see.
Well, I mean, if anybody wants to say anything, wants to
ask questions. Well, we're boring, so.
We're boring.
That's another thing. People can plant seeds and tell you things. Family members, friends, don't listen to that stuff. For years, somebody, Buddha, whose name I won't mention, told me I was boring. That stuck with me. And I thought I was boring, not interesting, and people, it affected my dating status. So if you have naysayers out there, he said it out of love or just being a big brother playing, but
yeah,
it stuck with me. And to this day, I'll say, ask Joanna, I need that reassurance because I feel like I'm boring or so lethargic, I guess the word is.
Yeah. That
I wouldn't really be that interesting. So don't ever listen to naysayers or people that are saying things that are going to affect your confidence or affect your self-esteem. Have you had any experience with that? People affecting your self-esteem? Or
yeah.
A little bit?
Yeah. I mean, this could be a whole other topic. Maybe we will do a whole topic on this. But one of the big ones for me is feeling annoying. So I always feel...
who could you ever annoy?
Like I'm loud and annoying. That's kind of a carryover from childhood too. So that's
you're getting off topic now.
You started it.
Anyway, back to compatibility. We're getting to wrap up soon. No one's really asking questions, but yeah. we talked about how perfectly compatible we are, I guess. But on a more serious note, you really do have to. Well, my grandparents told me this because I asked them. They were married 55, almost 60 years. I said, what was the key to their marriage lasting so long? And my grandmother said, not compatibility, but compromise. You have to be able to give and take. If you have two people that kind of want their way and no one's willing to budge, then you're going to be, bumping heads all the time. So there are some things that Joanna compromises with me. There's a whole lot of things I compromise with her. That's a joke. I'm not laughing. That's a joke. So, we both compromise with each other. Yeah,
and I think it has to be, like, you can't have two people who neither of them will compromise. Right. And you also can't have one person who does all the compromising and the other person does none of the compromising.
That's a big one.
That's just as toxic of a relationship.
Women, I hear that a lot more on the women's side. They have to do all the compromising, and the man is like, this is another topic too. Not wanting to do as much compromising. Actually, that leads into our next topic. We're probably going to talk about submission next week and this head of the household mess and the mentality. I mean. And yes. Use some Bible stuff. We didn't use any Bible verses this time. We keep forgetting to get our Bible out.
I know.
Have Bible stuff. That's what's all up here. I just don't know the verses, but I know the thoughts behind it. But anyway, yeah. So so what's some final thoughts on our compatibility and finding the right mate? I'll start. 'Cause I'm the man, head of the household. We're both heads of the households. We're equal.
Yes.
We're two heads. We're one flesh come together. So we're two heads together as households. Right?
What were your final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Okay, so compatibility. If you're single, you want to know what your core values are and find someone who lines up with your core values. Have your red flags if they're abusive or anything like that. Verbal, it's really not that difficult. Looking back, when I think about relationships, I was like, man, how did I ever like this person? But it's really not that difficult if you stick to your guns. The difficult part is when people don't line up with what you want, and it might be a lot of people. Then you start to get you start to want to compromise because it seems like, well, nobody's going to fit into how I want them to be, or But it's if you don't have anything too crazy, like but you want to have your core values, and those are the things you absolutely can't budge on. If you're a Christian, you should want to not fornicate and wait till you're married before you do anything sexual. So that was, I think, a big one with us too, is we wanted to stick with that. So that should be a core value. But whatever you pick your core values to be, stick to those. And then when you are with someone, compatibility, you want to know how to compromise, know how to communicate and talk things out when you have a problem. We like to go by, don't let the sun go down on your anger. Though sometimes if both people are upset, then you might need to wait till the next morning to calm down a little bit. But you want to talk things out even when you're upset, because for us, we find that even if something's bothering us, when we bring it to the other's attention, though it may upset them, we appreciate that we were able to talk it out. And then we both made a commitment to, one, never use the D word. That's divorce. We never use that word. We always said if we ever fall out of love, we'll just be roommates. We'll just stay together. But no, we don't ever think about that at all. And there's nothing that major, and that's a good level to use. Like if something's bothering me about her, I'll think, well, is it something you're going to break up the good relationship for? And I'm like, no. So that kind of nullifies a lot of things. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Being able to compromise and be able to talk things out, and then appreciate and then respecting your significant other. I think a lot of women don't feel appreciated, or they're not told the little things, or I realize Joanna works from home and we have 3 kids and all the stuff she does, and then it doesn't help if I notice little things she doesn't do. So I try to appreciate the big ginormous things she does, and always make her feel appreciated, or even ask her, hey, do you feel appreciated, or is there something else I can do to make you feel this way? Are you tired? You need to get out the house? So just being considerate, it kind of falls into my nature. But if you're not a considerate person, you can work on being considerate with just little things. I try to always say thank you, even though she knows I'm thankful when she does stuff. I still try to say thank you and please and little stuff you learn as a little kid.
Really,
so all those type of things you think go a long way, right? Yeah. So what final thoughts here on what someone who's single, finding the right person, and then when you are with someone, a few key things that makes them compatible. Okay, don't copy all my answers.
Maintain. So yeah, I would say when you're looking for somebody, the big things would be goals. What your life goals are. Are they compatible with that?
Yes.
Major things like religious and children, like thinking
lifestyle.
Lifestyle, yeah, and thinking about if we're raising children together, what are we going to teach them? Are we in line in our thinking on that?
Go put a shirt on. I was going to bring you on camera, but you don't have a shirt on.
So yeah, I think that's a big one. And then just just finding somebody who is on a personality level compatible with you. And I was gonna say too, little things that we are compatible on that we didn't even realize. I really, really, really love Christmas music, a lot.
She loves it as much as she loves me.
Almost. But I always thought that I'd have to find somebody who just sort of was dealt with it, but whatever, do whatever. But he actually enjoys it almost as much as I do. So.
What did I text you the other day?
Oh yeah, something about somebody had one of his customers had a Christmas tree in the window already.
Not that. What else did I text you?
I don't know. He texted me a lot of stuff
about Christmas.
the other day.
There's only 2 things I text you about Christmas.
Oh yeah, you texted something about like so many weeks till Christmas.
Yeah, 5 months.
Oh, was it 5 months? I didn't remember if it was the months or the weeks. Yeah. But yeah, so we're both really excited about Christmas.
Yeah.
But anyways, that was just one of those little things that we, after we were married, we actually realized like, we actually are like compatible on that. Yeah, it's not something I was going to ask.
And then I really like the clean stuff, and she doesn't as much. So that kind of fits because we kind of like complement each other really well. I'm just naming stuff that we didn't think to ask the Lord about that just kind of fits. Or so many things.
Yeah, but then like in a relationship, I think compatibility, be like, at that point you should already be like in line on the big stuff and things like that. But ways that you maintain that is one, playing to your strengths. Like one person might be really good with finances, the other person might be, really good with cleaning the clothes or taking care of the kids, getting up like Derek usually gets up with the kids in the middle of the night and really early in the morning.
Every night 365 7 days a week. And
then he actually washes most of the laundry, and then I mostly fold it and put it away.
Joanna sleeps like a zombie, so
I don't wake up. So.
Waking the dead. So I'm a light sleeper. I can wake up at a pin.
But we kind of try to pick up where the other person, like one of us might have a weakness in one area, and the other person,
You want to say hi?
Picks up in that area. So here's our oldest.
I told her to go put a shirt on, and she went and wrapped herself in a blanket.
Hi. Say hi.
This is our show, Cherish the Marriage. Can you say hi? You want to get down? You want to get down already?
You want to get down? Okay.
All right, what about that? Wrap it up anyway. All right, go watch PJ Masks.
Go watch your show.
Bye. Bye-bye.
So
get your drink in a minute. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We appreciate all y'all for watching. We hope y'all enjoyed this episode. We will be on next Sunday, and I think we will be talking about. You want to announce it now or later in the week?
Well, you kind of already announced it in this. Didn't you earlier?
You forgot.
You said submission.
Did I?
You did.
What type of submission?
All of it.
Oh, okay.
Aren't we going to be talking about it?
We're going to use the Bible this time?
Yeah.
Okay.
We use the Bible this time.
We have several Bibles. Are we rambling now? What we got on time? Steve Rice. What's up, Steve? I used to work with Steve at Food Line. He's a real cool dude. People are all waving. Oh, say hi. Hi, Grandma.
Grandma?
She's not my grandma.
She's not your grandma.
Oh, my mother-in-law. No, Tatiana always says hi, Grandma. So.
Yeah, the kids always say hi, Grandma.
So we're wrapping up here. Quiet, Tatiana. We are going to be talking about submission next week, so tune in for that one. We're going to be talking about duties of the husband, maybe duties of the wife, just submission overall, and how in Christendom it's really like the kind of husband has the final say sort of thing. Anyway, we'll get into it more next week. So
and then kind of how we work out, our relationship.
How I'm the head of household, but we're also equal.
I don't know why he's always playing.
I'm the head of the household. And you're the head of the household. We're both heads of households. We're two heads. Two-headed monsters.
Two-headed monster.
All right, that's it, guys. We're going now. Appreciate it. Cherish the marriage. Oh, I almost said what I said.
You're never gonna say?
Well, so many people say it.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't. I caught myself. All right. Thanks, y'all. Till next time. We don't know what time it will be because it depends on the kids going to sleep.
So hopefully next Sunday.
It will be next Sunday.
Next Sunday afternoon sometime.
We may even start pre-recording them just because if the kids don't fit into our schedule.
Yeah, we'll see.
So, all right. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Bye.
Finish.
I walk down the aisle, I'm a married man. No, all I do is smile, I'm a married man. And though we face some trials, I'm still happy, man. Would I do it all again? Oh yeah, gladly, man. Flesh of my flesh.